Hey, 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 Willie P here, and today myself and
Tyler.
are back, and we're going to be reacting to Realistic Pokemon Biology Part 1. Yeah, it's about 11 and a half minutes, and I guess we're going to see if Pokemon were real, what would they look like? So, let's make this happen.
Have you ever wondered what Pokemon might look like as realistic creatures? By their very nature, Pokemon are highly stylized, so
That's not real.
reimagining them as more biologically feasible life forms presents an exciting challenge. This concept is the idea behind the Realistic Pokemon Project, a series by R.J. Palmer, aka Arvalis, who is one of my favorite creature designers, and is so
Cool.
talented he was hired to assist with the designs for movies like Detective Pikachu. And I have links to where you can follow and support him in this video's description. His art imagines what kind of biology a more scientifically grounded version of a Pokemon might have, often with fascinating results. So for this entry into the archive, you can expect a Pokemon nature documentary of sorts, examining Palmer's redesigned Pokemon as if they were real animals. Before we get started, a quick disclaimer. These realistic life forms are an awesome speculative exercise, but not an attempt to somehow improve the stylized designs of the original games. They're just meant to be interesting alternate takes. Also, when Palmer calls these designs realistic, he means they ground the appearance of Pokemon in real-world anatomy, but many are of course still more fantastical than what you'd likely find in nature, and in some cases still possess their elemental abilities, because it's more exciting that way. He incorporates real science and biology when he can, but the main goal of this project is just to have fun. With that said, let's get started, and dive into the incredible world of realistic
All right,
Pokemon.
here we go.
We'll begin our journey through the natural
Oh,
world of
that's pretty.
Pokemon in the Kanto region and examine realistic versions of the starter lines. Opening with Venusaur and its
Oh, wow.
pre-evolutions, you can see how different Pokemon look when rendered with more realistic detail. Here, Palmer has modeled the fantastical anatomy of the Venusaur line off real animals like horned lizards and the extinct parareptile Gudosaurus, an organism
Cool.
that
I
wasn't
didn't know that
actually
was a
that
thing.
far off in size from
They
a
look
Venusaur.
alike.
Ulmer also imagines the organisms have an endosymbiotic relationship with a large type of flower, similar in size to real-life Rafflesia, plants which can reach 4 feet or 1.2 meters in
Wow.
diameter. Rafflesia are also parasitic, meaning they derive some of their
That
nutritional
looks like it'll
requirements
kill
from
you.
other plants.
Yeah.
We can imagine our Venusaurs have a similar, albeit more mutually beneficial, arrangement with the plant that grows out of their backs, giving the flowers energy in exchange for added defense and perhaps vice versa. Plant-animal cooperation isn't completely unheard of in nature, like hummingbirds pollinating flowers or moss growing on the fur of sloths,
Aww.
although sloths don't get much say in that one. Admittedly, this Venusaur line is taking this to a new level, but it's more fun to imagine a life form with a giant symbiotic plant on its back than without one.
That's so cool.
Charizard and its pre-evolutions are up next, and have been reimagined in
They
fearsome
did
detail.
amazing. Look at
Palmer
that.
adds new
Yeah.
complexities of scale patterns, ridges, and layers of muscle to help ground these more fantastical.
His face.
Yeah.
It's so cool. They added a lot of detail.
Yeah, they made like those running things, like the old little
Oh,
dinosaurs.
oh no. Oh, now you can hear us. All right. Look at that. His face. The face is amazing. They added a lot of details. What were you saying?
So you see a Charmander? He looks like one of those it's a dude from Jurassic Park, like the little dinosaur, like that look like that.
Oh, the. Oh no, I can't think of it.
It's not the.
Oh, somebody will tell us. I don't know. Let's.
A lot. No,
Oh, here we go. I'll get it right.
Creatures in the natural world. For inspiration, Palmer has drawn from the appearance of many different types of real-world reptiles, some of which look like they could be from another world if you stare at them long enough. The
Creepy
claws on
eyes.
the forelimbs in particular remind me of the anatomy of monitor lizards like the Komodo dragon, which in real life can grow up to 10 feet or 3 meters.
Yeah, those things get
And like
big.
most monitor lizards, this more biologically feasible version of Charizard usually stays lower to the ground due to its weight, and is rearing up in this image as an intimidation display. And the last starter we'll be covering here is Blastoise and its pre-evolutions. These turtle-like creatures now seem much better adapted for life in an aquatic environment, with sea turtle biology forming the basis for all three designs. Palmer imagined Squirtle might have a long, rudder-like tail to steer through the water, and much like a baby sea turtle, are quite a bit slower on land. In contrast, War Turtles, seen here having a minor standoff with a quite realistic Krabby, spend much of their time resting on the sea floor. Palmer has depicted War Turtles' head fins as a unique kind of fan coral that grow from the creature's head due to their sedentary lifestyle. And the aquatic behemoth Blastoise is perhaps the trickiest to get right. Cleverly, Palmer has reimagined its cannons as biological water jets, much like the ones some real-world squid species use for propulsion, although Blastoise's jets have evolved to be much more powerful. If you look closely, you can see a Staryu and Shelder in this image too, which creates an immersive sense of a rich underwater ecosystem.
For just $67, you can make as many videos as you want, and you never need to pick up a camera.
Moving past starters, interestingly, Palmer reimagines Dragonite as a giant amphibian, taking inspiration from the Japanese giant salamander, and basing Dragonite's earlier forms, Dratini and Dragonair, off salamander tadpoles.
Oh, that's
In
cool.
nature, some salamander tadpoles do
We used to
feature
catch
frill-like
tadpoles
structures
in
on the sides of their
in our
heads,
creek
which
back
do
home.
look somewhat like Dratini's
It
little
was way
side
before
crests.
you were around.
Strange though it might sound, in the real world these body parts are actually the salamander's external gills. Since salamanders are one
It's
of
hard
the
to
few
comment and
real-world
watch it at the
animals
same
where
time
a
because
serpentine-looking
it's
creature
interesting.
transforms into a reptilian-looking one, it's a pretty clever fit for a more biologically feasible version of Dragonite. And while real-world Japanese
Ew.
giant salamanders of course aren't actual dragons, they might well be the next closest thing. Up next, we have various evolutions of the unique Pokemon Eevee. In this more realistic world, Palmer imagines these organisms are the result of a
Is that supposed to be a naked cat?
No.
The hairless cat? Whatever it is?
No, no.
That's what it looks like.
It's an Eevee. It has a lot of evolution lines.
Huh. He's everywhere.
single species diversifying to adapt to different
Gotta
environments.
catch 'em
There
all.
are all sorts of small creative details here that make this image great, like Vaporeon having more defined flipper-like feet, almost like a seal or sea lion, Espeon resembling a hairless sphinx cat, and Leafeon having a high density of moss in their fur, giving them the appearance of being green, again, sort of like a sloth. In the category of legendary Pokemon, Palmer imagined
Alright, it's a lion and a tiger.
How is that legendary?
I
It's not a legendary Pokemon.
don't know. Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm very sure.
We might have to look that one up later.
No, I am very sure.
Height 6 feet. It's a big old animal.
Arcanine as a powerful predator, taking anatomical inspiration from canines of course, but also borrowing features from lions and tigers, which makes sense considering Arcanine in the games has something of a lion's mane and some tiger-like markings on its side. Plus, if any real animals deserve the title of legendary, lions and tigers are definitely among them, so it makes sense that a more lifelike Arcanine would resemble them. Palmer also drew the pre-evolved form
What?
It's not a legendary.
Well, you saying it's not going to change what he says.
I know, but still.
Is he playing with a turtle?
Growlithe, which I think looks a bit
Aw.
like a lion cub. A
Lion
small
King.
detail I like is that this cub seems to be playing with a Turtwig, although the Turtwig doesn't seem too happy about it. For the Pokemon Nidoking, Palmer took inspiration from
What?
various sources, adding the leathery armor and central horn of a rhino, while also borrowing the claws and spines of a porcupine for the rest of the anatomy. The result is a truly unique looking creature. And near this Pokemon's tail, Palmer snuck in a realistic interpretation of Pikachu, which not surprisingly looks quite rodent-like. In the realm of flying types, Palmer has converted Honchkrow into a much more biologically feasible looking creature, an impressive feat considering how stylized Honchkrow are in the games. Their beards have been reimagined as part of their body they can puff up to attract mates, similar to the displays of some birds of paradise. Their hats have also been reimagined as unique looking bony plates, which are actually quite similar to the bony plates on the heads of real-life cassowaries,
Cool.
plates that these giant birds can use as a deceptively powerful weapon. Another challenging Pokemon to make realistic
whoa. What in the world? It's a
I think they try to make it so it's flat and not standing up because that's not realistic.
there was a cartoon way before you were alive called, I want to say it was Street Sharks,
Yeah.
and they were walking sharks that
Yeah.
almost looked like this. It was weird. It was a weird cartoon.
Realistic is Garchomp, who happens to be one of my personal favorites. This version is an imposing carnivore, imagined as a fusion of a theropod dinosaur and some kind of shark, just on land. In fact,
looked
I
like
could imagine this strange predator stalking the sands of an arid environment. Definitely one realistic Pokemon which might be dangerous to encounter in nature. Another dinosaur-like Pokemon, but
What?
with some intriguing insect-like influences,
like he's
is
supposed to fly,
Scyther,
but he
depicted
can't.
here
Bless
looking quite
No, he
different
can't.
from its original design. The creature's
Bless
forms in this version resemble those of a mantis, although this reinterpretation also has some pretty clear theropod influences as well.
I don't like the interpretation on this one.
Yeah. I think it's more supposed to be like a dinosaur, but he's actually a bug.
That's what it looks like. Oh,
Its
They're
wings are
showing 4
depicted as
feet-
a kind of back sail,
almost 5 feet
almost like a
tall.
thinner version
Yeah,
of the
he's supposed
sails
to
on
be
the backs of
like this.
dinosaurs like Spinosaurus.
Whoa.
A pretty inventive reimagining. Perhaps the trickiest Pokemon on this list to imagine as a living organism is Gengar and its pre-evolutions. Instead of ghosts, this evolutionary line has been reimagined as bat-like organisms,
'cause
which
it's
fits
the
their
shadow
spooky
Pokemon.
theme. Starting with Ghastly, Palmer depicts this bizarre pre-evolution as a poisonous bat with a specialized helium bladder that allows it to float, almost like a living balloon. Strange? Sure, but you've got to get creative when imagining a ghost type as a wild animal.
I don't see it.
Moving on, haunters have been
like
realized
it.
with translucent wings to give them that
What do you think?
It looks like, yeah, it looks. He could have done that for like the Zubat line, but Haunter and Gengar,
Yeah, I don't like. It's weird.
especially Ghastly, it looks just weird.
Mhm.
And Ghastly is just a ball; it doesn't have ears.
Oh, that's.
floating hand look, which is a creative way to ground the design biologically. And finally, Gengar is a heavier terrestrial creature, which Palmer imagines as an active carnivore.
Yeah, I don't know.
This
There's
game,
a lot of ads in this one.
you're not ready.
Zoroark has also been given the carnivore treatment, with its anatomy now much closer
That's
to a
cool. That
canine
kinda looks like a
predator, and the
hyena.
stylized elements of the original design toned down. In the skull and teeth region, Palmer's Zoroark somewhat resembles a hyena. And moving down to the ground, also ready for their close-up is Diglett, conceptualized as a much more conventional burrowing life form akin to a star-nosed mole, which is good because star-nosed moles are the best. Returning at last to legendary Pokemon, this awe-inspiring reimagining of
that a
Reshiram focuses
legendary?
on the avian qualities of the legendary to create a more taxonomically consistent design. An ancient and powerful being in the
Cool.
games, this portrayal likewise takes inspiration from the anatomy of extinct proto-birds and early avian dinosaurs, just scaled up to epic proportions. One extra world-building detail is that Palmer imagines the silver bangles on its neck were offerings from early humans who worshipped it like a deity. And as the finale of our journey through realistic Pokemon designs, we have Groudon, looking straight out of an epic
He's
myth
supposed to
when
look
rendered in
like
so
the
much realistic detail. Huge and pulsing with some unknown bioluminescent display, this gargantuan creature stretches the
Just-
limits of
He doesn't look terrible.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty close.
size for wildlife, taking anatomical clues from the largest of theropod dinosaurs. It's the sort of behemoth that would seem right at home stomping through a volcanic landscape. Of course, a creature of this size would have an effect on its environment. Running from this titan's thundering steps is a Magmar.
You know, they kinda got it right.
Yeah.
Except for the toes. I mean, they gave him 3 toes, but you go from a drawing to that.
And there's no fire on his tail, but
Yeah,
it looks more like a duck.
it really does. Looks like a duck.
Which in this interpretation resembles the curious shoe-billed stork, an animal that proves once and for all that nature can frankly be just as weird as Pokemon. The world of realistic Pokemon is vast and is yet
Oh, all right. Yeah, that was kind of short. Wasn't a lot of talking in that one. We were really kind of just, I guess, like you all, and just couldn't turn away and really couldn't say anything. Um, I don't know. It seemed like most of them were pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah, some of them were actually really realistic, like all of them.
Yeah.
They're just really realistic.
Well, I mean,
Some of them are too realistic.
I guess so. He did what he was trying to do.
No.
The realistic Pokemon biology. Cool. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this. It was fun. Like, subscribe, leave some comments, something like that, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and if you enjoyed it, please tell a friend. With that being said, I hope you have a great day. And what else?
Bye.
Yeah, that says it. Bye.